Okay, tonight is the 7th of August 2011, and this is the 22nd night we are talking on the Digha Nikaya Suttas. And tonight we come to Sutta number 29, Pasadika Sutta, the delightful discourse. Thus have I heard, once the Lord was staying among the Sakyans at the building in the mango grove belonging to the Vedanya family. At that time the Niganta Nattaputta had just died at Pava, and at his death the Nigantas were split into two parties, quarrelling and disputing, fighting and attacking each other with wordy warfare. You don't understand this doctrine and discipline, or Dhammavinaya. I do. How could you understand this Dhammavinaya? Your way is all wrong, mine is right. I am consistent, you aren't. You said last what you should have said first, and you said first what you should have said last. What you took so long to think up has been refuted. Your argument has been overthrown, you are defeated. Go on, save your doctrine, get out of that if you can. He would have thought the Nigantas, Nattaputta's disciples, were bent on killing each other. Even the white-robed lay followers were disgusted, displeased and repelled when they saw that their Dhammavinaya was so ill-proclaimed, so unedifyingly displayed, and so ineffectual in calming the passions, having been proclaimed by one not fully enlightened, and now with its support gone, without an arbiter. Now the novice Chunda, who had spent the rains at Pava, came to Samagama to see the Venerable Ananda. Saluting him, he sat down to one side and said, Sir, the Niganta Nattaputta has just died at Pava. And he related what had happened. Venerable Ananda said, Chunda, that is something that ought to be reported to the Blessed Lord. Let us go and tell him. Very good, sir, said Chunda. So they went to the Lord and told him. He said, Chunda, here is a Dhammavinaya that is ill-proclaimed, unedifyingly displayed, and ineffectual in calming the passions, because its proclaimer was not fully enlightened. Such being the case, Chunda, a disciple cannot live according to that doctrine and maintain proper conduct, nor live by it, but deviates from it. To him one might say, Friend, this is what you have received, and you have your opportunity. Your teacher is not fully enlightened. You cannot live according to that doctrine, but deviate from it. In this case, Chunda, the teacher is to be blamed. The doctrine is to be blamed, but the pupil is praiseworthy. And if anyone were to say to that pupil, Come now, Reverend Sir, practice according to the doctrine proclaimed and given out by your teacher, then the one who urged this, the thing urged, and the one who so practiced would all gain much demerit. Why? Because the doctrine is ill-proclaimed. But here Chunda is a teacher who is not fully enlightened, and a disciple lives according to that doctrine and conforms to it. One might say to him, Friend, what you have received is no good. Your opportunity is a poor one. Your teacher is not fully enlightened. His teaching is ill-proclaimed, but yet you continue to live according to it. In this case, the teacher, the doctrine, and the disciple are all to blame. And if anyone were to say, Well, Reverend Sir, by following that system you will be successful, the one who so recommended it, that which was recommended, and the one who, on hearing such recommendation, should make still greater efforts, would all gain much demerit. Why? Because the doctrine is ill-proclaimed. Let's stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is talking about a teacher who is not enlightened, and some people follow him, and they are blamable unless they don't follow that teaching. So this brings to mind nowadays, even within Buddhism, you have so many later books written by people who are not fully enlightened. So it's a mistake to follow those books. Buddha says, then you are blamable. But here now is a teacher who is fully enlightened. His doctrine is well proclaimed, edifyingly displayed, effectual in calming the passions because of that enlightened teacher. But the disciple does not live up to the doctrine, but deviates from it. In that case, one might say to him, "Friend, you have failed. You have missed your opportunity. Your teacher is fully enlightened. His doctrine is well proclaimed, but you do not follow it. You deviate from it. In this case, the teacher and the doctrine are praiseworthy, but the pupil is to blame. And if anyone were to say, 'Well, Reverend Sir, you should follow the teaching proclaimed by your teacher,' then the one who urged this, that which was urged, and the one who so practiced would all gain much merit. Why? Because the doctrine is well proclaimed. But now, Chunda, here is a teacher who is fully enlightened. His doctrine is well proclaimed, and the disciple, having taken it up, follows it, practicing it properly and keeping to it. Someone might say to him, 'Friend, what you have received is good. Here is your opportunity, and you are following the doctrine of your teacher.' In this case, the teacher and the doctrine are praiseworthy, and the pupil is also praiseworthy. And if anyone were to say to such a disciple, 'Well, Reverend Sir, by following that system you will be successful,' then the one who thus commended it, and that which was commended, and the one who, on hearing such commendation, should make still greater efforts, would all gain much merit. Why? Because that is so when the Dhamma and Vinaya, doctrine and discipline, are well proclaimed, edifyingly displayed and effectual in calming the passions, because of the fully enlightened teacher and supreme Buddha." Stop here for a moment. So here, the teacher is fully enlightened, a Buddha, and if the disciple follows his teacher's words, then he is praiseworthy, but if he deviates from it, then he is blamable. But now, Chunda, suppose a teacher has arisen in the world, an Arahant Sammasambuddha, and his doctrine is well proclaimed, effectual in calming the passions because of that teacher. But his disciples have not fully mastered that true Dhamma. The full purity of the holy life has not become clear and evident to them in the logic of its unfolding, and has not been sufficiently grounded among them, being still in course of being well proclaimed among humans at the time of the teacher's passing from among them. That way, Chunda, the teacher's death would be a sad thing for his disciples. Why? They would think, "Our teacher arose in the world for us, an Arahant Sammasambuddha, whose doctrine was well proclaimed. But we did not fully master the true Dhamma, as long as it was well proclaimed among humans, and now our teacher has passed away from among us. That way, the teacher's death would be a sad thing for his disciples." Stop here for a moment. You notice here that the Dhamma taught by the Arahant Sammasambuddha, if the disciple did not master the true Dhamma, mastering the true Dhamma means being extremely familiar with his words in the suttas. Then, otherwise, if they are not extremely familiar with the suttas, then they have not mastered the Dhamma. But suppose a teacher has arisen in the world, and his disciples have fully mastered the true Dhamma. The full purity of the holy life has become clear and evident to them in the logic of its unfolding, and has been sufficiently grounded among them, while being thus well proclaimed among humans by the time of the teacher's passing from them. That way, the teacher's death would not be a sad thing for his disciples. Why? They would think, "Our teacher arose in the world for us, and we have fully mastered the true Dhamma, while it was thus proclaimed among humans, and now our teacher has passed away from among us." That way, the teacher's death would not be a sad thing for his disciples. But Chunda, if the holy life is so circumstanced, and there is no teacher who is senior, of long standing, long ordained, mature and advanced in seniority, then in such a case the holy life will be imperfect. But if such a teacher exists, then the holy life can be perfected in such a case. If in such a case there is such a senior teacher But if there are no senior disciples among the monks who are experienced, trained, skilled, who have attained peace from bondage, who are able to proclaim the true Dhamma, able to refute any opposing doctrines that may arise by means of the true Dhamma, and having done so, give a rounded exposition of Dhamma, then the holy life is not perfected. In such cases, if there are such senior teachers and such senior disciples, but there are no monks of middle standing with these qualities, or, despite the presence of these, no junior monks with these qualities, or no senior disciples among the nuns, or no middle-ranking or junior nuns, or no white-robed lay followers, male or female, celibate or otherwise, or if the teaching does not prosper and flourish, is not widespread, widely known, proclaimed far and wide, or even if these conditions are fulfilled, has not gained the first place in public support, then the holy life is not perfected. If, however, all these conditions are fulfilled, then the holy life is perfected. But Chunda, I have now arisen in the world as an Arahant Sammasambuddha. The Dhamma is well proclaimed. My disciples are proficient in the true Dhamma. The full purity of the holy life has become clear and evident to them in the logic of its unfolding. But now I am an aged teacher of long standing, who went forth a long time ago, and my life is coming to its close. However, there are senior teachers among the monks who are experienced, trained, skilled, who have attained peace from bondage, able to proclaim the true Dhamma, able to refute by means of the Dhamma any opposing doctrines that may arise, and having done so, give a grounded exposition of Dhamma. And there are middle-ranking monks who are disciplined and experienced. There are novices who are disciples. There are senior, middle-ranking and novice monks, nuns, and novice nuns who are disciples. There are white-robed lay followers, male and female, celibate and non-celibate. And the holy life I proclaim prospers and flourishes, is widespread, widely known, proclaimed far and wide, well proclaimed among humans. Among all the teachers now existing in the world, Chunda, I see none who has attained to such a position of fame and following as I have. Of all the orders and groups in the world, I see none as famous and well followed as my Sangha of monks. If anyone were to refer to any holy way of life as being fully successful and perfect, with nothing lacking and nothing superfluous, well proclaimed in the perfection of its purity, it is this holy life they would be describing. It was Uddaka Ramaputta who used to say, he sees but does not see. I stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is saying that his sasana, the religion is perfect because the teacher is enlightened, the disciples fully understand his teaching, and he has senior disciples who can teach what he has taught, and there are middle ranking disciples and junior disciples and lay followers, all who know his teaching well, and his teaching is widespread, widely known, and all that. That's why he says it is perfect. It was Uddaka Ramaputta who used to say, he sees but does not see. What is it that seeing one does not see? You can see the blade of a well-sharpened razor, but not its edge. That is what he meant by saying, he sees but does not see. He spoke in reference to a low, vulgar, worldly, ignoble thing of no spiritual significance, a mere razor. But if one were to use that expression properly, he sees but does not see, it would be like this. What he sees is a holy way of life, which is fully successful and perfect, with nothing lacking and nothing superfluous, well proclaimed in the perfection of its purity. If he were to deduct anything from it, thinking in this way it will be purer, he does not see it. And if he were to add anything to it, thinking in this way it will be more complete, then he does not see it. That is the meaning of the saying, he sees but does not see. Therefore, Chunda, if anyone were to refer to any holy way of life as being fully successful and perfect, it is this holy life they would be describing. I stop here for a moment. This is an extremely important paragraph the Buddha is saying here. The Buddha first, he says, his holy way of life is perfect. Secondly, there is nothing lacking, nothing superfluous. In other words, it is complete. Complete. Hoàn chuẩn, hoàn moi. Perfect is hoàn moi, isn't it? In Hokkien. Complete is hoàn chuẩn. And then utterly pure, perfection of its purity. So there are three characteristics of the Buddha's teaching. One is it is perfect, the other one it is complete, the third one it is utterly pure. So the Buddha says, if anybody thinks he wants to deduct anything from the Buddha's words, he does not understand, he does not see it, that means not see the Dhamma, does not understand the Dhamma. And if he wants to add anything to the Buddha's words, thinking it will be more complete, then also he does not see the Dhamma, he does not understand the Dhamma. Which means that those later monks who added to the Buddha's words, wrote the later suttas and they wrote the later books like the commentaries and the Abhidhamma and all that, Visuddhimagga and all that, according to the Buddha, they don't understand the Dhamma, because if they understand the Dhamma, then they will know that the Buddha's words are perfect and complete and utterly pure. You don't need to add to his words. What he has said is already enough. Why must you add to his words? Even things like about meditation, what the Buddha has explained is complete, perfect. You don't need to add to his words about meditation also. Because the certain things like the Buddha didn't say, it's purposely because he didn't say it, and not that he doesn't know how to say it. Purposely doesn't say certain things because why? Because meditation is something each person is different one. You got to practice it yourself and find the way that is suitable for you. The basic teaching, for example, about noticing the breath coming in and out. That is the basic principle. Where you want to notice the breath, how you want to notice the breath, each person is different. That's why a lot of things the Buddha did not say because it's not necessary. On the other hand, you find some teachers, they say so much about meditation, so that you find those disciples following the teacher who have said so many things, they have a Seipan view of that meditation. Their meditation must go exactly according to that way. Otherwise, it's not correct. So they want it so badly that they start to see those things that they want to see. Just like some people want to see the light, then they see the light. Because it's very easy to imagine what you like to imagine. To continue, the Buddha says, therefore, Chunda, all you to whom I have taught these truths that I have realized by super knowledge should come together and recite them, setting meaning beside meaning and expression beside expression, without dissension, in order that this holy life may continue and be established for a long time, for the profit and happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world, and for the benefit, profit, and happiness of devas and humans. And what are the things that you should recite together? They are the 4 intense states of mindfulness, the 4 right efforts, the 4 bases of psychic power, the 5 spiritual faculties, the 5 mental powers, the 7 factors of enlightenment, the Noble Eightfold Path. These are the things you should recite together. And thus you must train yourselves, being assembled in harmony and without dissension. If a fellow in the holy life quotes Dhamma in the assembly, and if you think he has either misunderstood the sense or expressed it wrongly, you should neither applaud nor reject it, but should say to him, "Friend, if you mean such and such, you should put it either like this or like that. Which is the more appropriate? Or if you say such and such, you mean either this or that. Which is the more appropriate?" If he replies, "This meaning is better expressed like this than like that, or the sense of this expression is this rather than that," then his words should be neither rejected nor disparaged, but you should explain to him carefully the correct meaning and expression. Again, Chunda, if a fellow in the holy life quotes Dhamma in the assembly, and if you think he has misunderstood the sense, though he has expressed it correctly, you should neither applaud nor reject it, but should say to him, "Friend, these words can either mean this or that. Which sense is the more appropriate?" And if he replies, "They mean this," then his words should be neither rejected nor disparaged, but you should explain to him carefully the correct meaning. And similarly, if you think he has got the right meaning but expressed it wrongly, you should explain to him carefully the correct meaning and expression. But Chunda, if you think he has got the right meaning and expressed it correctly, you should say good, and should applaud and congratulate him, saying, "We are lucky, we are most fortunate to find in you, friend, a companion in the holy life who is so well versed in both the meaning and the expression." I'll stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha, firstly, at the top, the Buddha says there are certain teachings which are very important, which the monks should constantly focus on, recite it. What are these? These are the 37 Bodhipakya, the 4 intense states of mindfulness, Satipatthana, the 4 right efforts, Vayama, the 4 bases of psychic power, Iddhipada, the 5 faculties, Indriya, the 5 powers, Bala, the 7 factors of enlightenment, Bojjhanga, the Noble Eightfold Path, Arya Atangika Magga. If you add 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 5 plus 5 plus 7 plus 8, you get 37. So these are called the 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas. When you practice these 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas and perfect them, then you have perfected the Noble Eightfold Path also. So after that, the Buddha says that if some monk teaches the Dhamma and the meaning is not so clear, then it should be discussed and made clearer. Chunda, I do not teach a Dhamma for restraining the asavas that arise in the present life alone. I do not teach a Dhamma merely for their destruction in future lives, but one for their restraining in this life, as well as for their destruction in future lives. Accordingly, Chunda, let the robe I have allowed you be simply for warding off the cold, for warding off the heat, for warding off the touch of gadfly, mosquito, wind, sun, and creeping things, just so as to protect your modesty. Let the alms food I have allowed you be just enough for the support and sustenance of the body, for keeping it unimpaired, for the furtherance of the holy life, with the thought, thus I shall eliminate the former feeling without giving rise to a new one. In that way I shall live without fault and in comfort. Let the lodging I have allowed you be simply for warding off the cold, for warding off the heat, for warding off the touch of gadfly, mosquito, wind, sun, and creeping things, just for allaying the perils of the seasons, and for the enjoyment of seclusion. Let the provision of medicines and necessities for the treatment of sickness that I have allowed you be just for warding off feelings of sickness that have arisen, and for the maintenance of health. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says his teaching is for the restraining or destruction of the asavas, the uncontrolled mental outflows, not only this life but future lives as well. And then the robe is only for protecting us from the cold and heat and the insects and the creeping things. And then the food is for the support and sustenance of the body so that we can practice the holy life, continue to practice the holy life. Thus I shall eliminate the former feeling. The former feeling should refer to the feeling of hunger. When we eat the food, we eliminate the hunger without giving rise to a new one, without giving rise to greed for good food. Then that way I shall live without fault, blameless and in comfort. So the lodging also is for protecting us from the cold, the heat, insects and the sun and wind, and for seclusion. And then the medicines and all that for warding off sickness.